Hello everybody, I hope that you are well. I hope that you are enjoying your wedding planning so far. Today's topic is all about value for money and making sure that you get a real good return on your investment when it comes to booking suppliers. I chat to Alison Hargreaves from Guides for Brides, who provides lots of useful tips and information on ensuring that regardless of your budget, you get great value for money when shopping for your wedding services. I hope you enjoy the podcast, and I'll be back in 2 weeks with more information and advice as you plan your big day. Take care. Hello Alison, welcome to the podcast. Tell everyone who you are and what you do.
Hi, I'm Alison Hargreaves and I'm the Managing Director of Guides for Brides.
Fantastic. So that's a very impressive sounding role. Tell us a little bit more about Guides for Brides and your role within that.
Of course. So Guides for Brides was launched in 1995. So we're 25 years in the industry now. We started up originally before the internet, so as printed local booklets.
Oh, really?
And we were very quick online in 1997, 1998, and it's just grown from there. So Guides for Brides is the sort of base company and perhaps the website that's the best known. But we've also got various other websites, Beyond Weddings, which is all about luxury international weddings. Champagne Weddings, which is luxury UK, Weddings for Less, sort of says what it
absolutely.
does. So for the budget wedding industry, and we are just about to launch Pride Guide. So lots of different websites looking at different niches.
Yeah, and sort of staying on top of changing trends and
Absolutely.
Wedding styles that go in and out of fashion.
Absolutely. So there's a directory at the centre of all of our websites. It's about giving couples the information they need to plan the wedding they're wanting to, but also a lot of the tools and the editorial and inspiration, real weddings, all of the content that couples used to absorb through magazines and are now looking to find online. So we have all of that information, and what's great is everything that you see in the articles, you can then find the contact information, read reviews about the business, see photos, and actually contact them and book them if they're right for your wedding. So
Fantastic.
Hopefully a really, really useful resource.
Yeah, like a one-stop shop almost. It's got everything you could think of wedding related.
That's certainly the plan.
Brilliant. So today we're going to talk about getting value for money from your wedding suppliers. I'm going to hand it over to you in terms of, it's a very not controversial topic, but it's one that people have strong opinions on both sides, from the supplier side and the couple side. What do you mean when we think about getting value for money?
Well, I think what couples are wanting is to make sure that they're not being ripped off, to be frank. You know, there's been talk in the past that as soon as you mention the word wedding, the price suddenly goes up. And I think it's really important for couples to understand when that does happen, why it happens, and that there is a very good reason. And the reason for that is that a wedding is a very, very different beast from any other party. It has to be perfect. You know, it's only going to happen once. The venue, for example, needs to make sure that everything is looking absolutely tickety-boo, that all of the lawns have been mowed and the flower beds are looking amazing and things have been painted, and that's what you're expecting for your wedding. Whereas if you're coming in for just a dinner or a 40th birthday party or a 21st birthday party, those things aren't going to matter, and it's those things that can add on a little bit of extra cost, but it is reasonable cost. It is absolutely right, because you will be wanting those things to be done. If you would charge them as extras, you would want them as extras. If the venue is to say, well, this is our base price, but if you would like all of this to look fabulous and perfect for your wedding, there's an extra cost. You're always going to be wanting to add those in. So don't be put off if it does seem a little bit more expensive. The important thing is getting value for money, and feeling that where your money has been spent and that it is totally justified.
Yeah, that's really important. And I speak in other podcasts about the responsibility of suppliers and venues and florists and photographers to communicate and manage expectations as to what goes into the service they provide and why it is the cost that it is.
Absolutely. And one of the things we've noticed over the last couple of years is the wonderful transparency from businesses on what they're charging, and more businesses put their prices online. And what's been really nice is we've noticed that the typical prices that brides say they are paying or grooms say they are paying matches the prices that the businesses say they're charging. So when you look at the averages, we look at the end of the year, we pull all of the statistics off the website and we look at the prices that a typical florist charges, and we notice that the couples are saying this is what we paid. So that's nice. There's that transparency. There's not hidden extras.
No.
Yes, wedding budgets typically go over by 10%. Okay. That is, the amount couples are planning to spend. But when you speak to couples, generally they're saying it's because there were extra things they decided they wanted to book, not because the suppliers were charging them more than they'd expected.
Yeah.
The typical price for a wedding is far lower than it's reported in the press.
Right.
It's a big figure to make things, slightly sensationalized.
Yeah.
We found that it's actually close to 17,000 and the 27,000 that's reported.
Okay, that's quite a big difference.
It is. It's a very, very big difference. Now that's taking out all of those weddings that are £100,000 and above.
Yes.
Because that's not what most couples are spending.
No.
That's not a typical wedding. So if you're wanting to plan a really nice wedding in a local venue with 70 or 80 guests, and you're not going for the sort of wildly expensive designers for your wedding dress and for your suits, the chances are you'll be able to do it for under 20,000. What pushes up the price is the big marquee weddings at home, for example, that can add on a lot.
Yeah.
Or the very big weddings that last for a couple of days or have got 120, 200 guests. Those are the weddings that push the averages for everyone else. So don't be put off if you've got a budget under 20,000.
No, that's a really good point, that you can have a fantastic wedding, the one you dream about, for that sort of price range.
Absolutely.
I think that's
yes.
really important. If you take away nothing else today, I think that's a really good message to go away with.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
But when we talk about value for money, a lot of people talk in terms of sort of trying to get a discount, as it were, or getting a bit of money off. And like you said, people often go a little bit over their budget because there were extras that they wanted. And I always say, have a little bit of leeway, that you might see someone you can't resist having, and they are a little bit more than you plan to pay for that service, but
yes.
They're exactly what you want.
Yes.
How do you advise bride and grooms that are sort of constantly trying to bargain hunt, as it were?
It's probably not the right approach for the most important day of your life.
Yes.
To feel that you're going to be going along having cut corners.
Yeah.
You're wanting everything to be wonderful, but you can save money. And the best way of saving money is to find something that works for the supplier as well.
Right.
So, for example, if your cake maker is wanting to do a particular design, and they're really wanting it for their portfolio, they feel it's going to be the new trend, it's something that hasn't been done previously, but you love the idea of it, go with it. Give them the artistic license to make it look fabulous. You may find they put an extra tier on, because a 4-tier cake always looks so much better than a 3-tier cake.
Yeah.
And from their point of view, they would much rather be paid to make the cake that they're wanting for their album than to be making it just in order to take a photograph and throwing it away, which is otherwise their other option.
Yes,
same for florists. Give them a little bit of creative license. Not only will you get better value for money, they'll enjoy working with you, and they're going to give you a much, much better product, as long as you are clear on what the boundaries are. You really want it to be roughly this style and within this colour range, and let them work with it. If you're not shy and you're happy for people to use your images on social media, for example, photographers, videographers, venues are always looking to create a bigger social media presence.
Yes.
So, be upfront with them and say, is there any chance either we can have a little bit of a discount if we do X, Y, Z, if we let you use our wedding video for your PR, or if you're just looking for value for money rather than a discount, just being clear with them that you'll be really happy for them to use your shots, as long as you've got, make sure you know what they're being used for, and that, they're not going to be splashed somewhere that will upset either of you or perhaps your wider family. But if you're happy for that to happen, you'll find they'll go the extra mile as well to make sure that they set up the shots that they know is going to be perfect, or to have the venue in exactly the way that they're going to want it to be depicted on the photos. So it's another way of getting good value for money from them.
Brilliant, that's really useful advice. And I would add to that, just the way you interact and engage and communicate with your supplier will have an impact on the service and the value that you get. Having respect for what they do and the level of professionalism and time they take to deliver their service.
Yes.
But also acting within guidelines. If there's a contract or terms and conditions in terms of payment, then sticking to that and following that and reading anything that is sent that you have to sign. That really helps build that trusting relationship between the two of you, and then you do get good value for money, don't you?
Yes, absolutely. If the supplier really buys into your wedding because they get on with you, they want you to have a great day, you've been great to work with, you've allowed them the creativity to create a great wedding for you, they're going to want everything to be perfect, and they're going to go that extra mile. They're going to do that little bit that will make it really, really special. And that might be respecting things like, not messaging them late at night when it's something that's not urgent. Having the open conversations about what's important to you, what's not important to you. As you say, understanding the terms and conditions, making sure that you pay deposits on time, all of those things, just to show that you are working with them as a professional and you're not being, unreasonably demanding on them on anything.
I agree, absolutely. You mentioned paying deposits on time, and there is a growing trend or an increasing trend that people are booking a supplier or a service and paying a deposit, and then cancelling later once they find another venue or another supplier. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you've discovered?
Yes, this is from what we can see, a fairly new trend that's developing, and I think it's something that's quite important for couples to be aware of, as well as suppliers. So from the point of view of couples, don't feel pressurised into making a decision. I know very often what's happening is they get to the end of a show round, they see their perfect venue, they've had the show round and they're shown the diary for next year and the fact there's very few gaps, and they feel under immense pressure to book there and then. Yes, if you know without a doubt it is the perfect venue and everything ticks the boxes and there's absolutely no chance that you're going to be going anywhere else, then there's no reason not to sign there and then, and you can sit back and relax. Make sure you do pay a deposit. We do speak to couples from time to time who say, my venue double booked me, and we say, well, what was in the contract? Or we didn't have a contract, we hadn't actually paid the deposit. You're only penciled in until the contract exists. And particularly if it's a small wedding, some venues will be slightly reluctant to take on a small wedding for a popular date if they think they can get a bigger one. They might just, not overly encourage you to pay a deposit. So as soon as you're certain it's the right venue, go ahead. But what we're noticing at the moment, it's more so with venues than anything else, is that couples are reserving their dates. So it's really important that their wedding is on a particular date. Perhaps it's an Asian wedding and there's an auspicious date connected to it. They're particularly wanting that weekend. It might be a 3-day event. They want to let relatives know this is when it's going to happen. There's quite a shortage of venues in some areas that can cater for that size wedding. And what we're seeing is that very often the parents of the groom are booking the venue and paying the deposit, and then they're continuing to shop around. So they are making sure that they have a venue that's there and safe. They know the wedding can happen and the venue's fine for them. But then they're going to, go and find the actual venue of their dreams. They're quite happy to lose that deposit. That's great.
Really?
If you've got the money to do it,
Yeah.
absolutely fine. But for the venue, they're left in a little bit of a tricky position because they've probably turned down other couples. And that's really tricky for them to go back to those couples and say, actually the venue is now available after all.
Yeah.
It doesn't look professional for them. It's not great. So we would stress to couples, try and make sure you've done your research before you book. It's, you might be happy to lose the deposit, but is that the right way to be working? But from the point of view of suppliers, make sure your contract allows for it. So, if you can include a cooling off period, I think you were saying yourself, you have a 2-week cooling off.
Yes.
That's great. Give them that chance to hold the date. If they've got on with you and they like your work, they're not going to cancel unless there's very good reason.
Absolutely.
But if they get home and somebody says, "Oh my goodness, no, I'd already paid a deposit for you as your wedding present. We just hadn't told you yet," or whatever else it might be. There's that cooling off period. That's great. Perhaps retain a small administration fee or whatever else if there's been a consultation involved.
Really good advice. Yeah,
to
definitely.
protect. We're also noticing the deposit issue for wedding dresses, and I think that's a very, very different reason. It's not that people are necessarily intentionally buying the dress with the thought they're going to shop around for something else, but they're often understandably buying the dress very, very early on because that's the fun and exciting bit to get organised. And in our current culture is very much, you go out, you buy a dress, you take it home, you decide whether you really like it, and then you take the label off. But if you don't, you can take it back and everywhere will accept a return. That doesn't happen in the wedding industry because that dress is being made for you. So when that order goes in, that's it.
Yeah.
And in most cases, you are legally obliged to pay for the dress. Even if it's 18 months in advance that you cancel, the chances are, if you look at the small print, you're paying the whole cost of that dress, not just the deposit you've already paid. You're in it for the full expense. So, gosh, be really careful. Unless you're planning on wearing 2 dresses, make sure you're ordering the right one first time. Because otherwise, it's an unnecessary waste of money.
Definitely, absolutely. That's really interesting and you've been in the industry quite a while, for that to be quite a new trend that you're seeing.
Yes.
Hopefully, it's not one that sort of grows and continues, but it's interesting as well from a supplier point of view, whether. Part of it is there's so much choice around, and I think sometimes from a supplier point of view, you try and get people sort of putting money down early, and you see it at wedding fairs, discounts if you book on the day and things like that, which I've always been a little bit hesitant to do.
Yes.
Because I'd rather people look around and then come back to me, and I know they're booking me for the right reasons.
Yes.
As opposed to I was a bargain on that day.
Yes.
And I've said that before.
And with a lot of wedding suppliers, and I would say particularly the wedding photographer, there's got to be that personal relationship between you. So there would be nothing worse than you knowing a couple are only using you because they're tied in by a deposit.
Yeah.
And they would rather be using a different photographer for whatever reason. So in so many cases, we hear that businesses are refunding the deposit, and I think they're worried about brides slating them online for not... and maybe this is where businesses need to go back and have a look at their terms and conditions and say, right, this is something that's starting to happen, and perhaps how I am going to layer my deposits will be, instead of 30% upfront and the balance 4 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever it is before the wedding, that it's going to be 30% upfront, of which £100 is a non-refundable admin fee, and that the bride and groom are aware that some of it might come back, but they will lose some. It needs to be enough that it feels fair. I think when it's 18 months from the wedding, couples who genuinely cancel for genuine reason and sadly haven't chosen to take wedding insurance, you really, really feel for them.
Yeah. Oh, you do.
If there is, if there's a good reason. Obviously, wedding insurance covers some things, not
but not
disinclination
everything.
for marriage, but very often it's a very, very good reason that they can no longer get married on that date. And you want suppliers to help them, and it will be a real shame if this trend for shopping around and paying deposits willy-nilly and just expecting your money back actually then starts adversely affecting these couples that have very, very good reason to need to make changes.
It was interesting. I was at the National Wedding Show last year, and it was the first time I'd exhibited at that particular one, and it was a great show for me. Got lots of bookings from it, but I had a couple of people saying, "What are your offers? What are your discounts on the day?" And I didn't have any. I said, I don't have any. Go away and think about it. But someone said, you're the only one that hasn't got a discount for, if we book today or book within a week. And part of you questions it, and part of you thinks, is that the environment that the industry wants to create? No. A sort of quick buy, put your money down quickly? I
don't think it is. It's not the right industry for the sort of Groupon type approach. And I think it's one thing saying to people, so that you can measure your marketing, a small token of something.
Yes.
If you've booked me as a result of the National Wedding Show, I want to know that that's where it came from.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing I think is incredibly valuable. And having a different offer for each different activity, or the same offer, but they need to tell you why they think they're entitled to that offer. But that ultimately is coming off your bottom line.
Yeah.
So, are you actually just penalising everyone that didn't go to the National Wedding Show or didn't see you on Guides for Brides or
Exactly.
wherever it is that you'd put that marketing offer, but using it as a means to pressurise people, it feels it doesn't quite feel right within the wedding industry. It's got to be the right decision. It's not something that you should be taking lightly when it's usually thousands of pounds that are involved.
Exactly. Brilliant. Well, it's been really interesting and useful talking to you today. I've learnt lots, so hopefully everybody listening has learnt a lot as well. Before we sign off, just tell everyone where they can look for Guides for Brides and find lots more information and inspiration.
Of course. So we're online at www.guidesforbrides.co.uk, and the other websites are www.champagneweddings.co.uk for your luxury weddings, www.weddingsforless.co.uk for budget weddings, prideguide.co.uk, and then finally, for those lucky enough to be aiming for an international luxury wedding, beyondweddings.com.
Fantastic. Thanks again, Alison, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you very much.